NASA just held a quiet briefing that should have been front-page news across the globe. Artemis 3, the mission meant to return humans to the lunar surface for the first time since 1972, is no longer a landing mission. They're calling it a strategic redesign, a necessary evolution. But if you look past the PRS peak, the truth is buried in 500-page technical reports that suggest our return to the moon is facing a systemic collapse. We're talking about cracking heat shields that can't survive the return trip, a landing craft that requires a conveyor belt of rockets we don't have yet, and a suit crisis so deep it has left astronauts without a way to breathe on the surface. Forget the flashy animations and the PR hype. Today, we're looking at the cold, hard engineering reality. We are going to connect the dots between a billionaire's radical new NASA doctrine and the hardware failures that almost cost us everything. This is the real reason Artemis 3 will never touch lunar dust for under years. The 2025 and 2026 landing dates were treated as sacred by NASA leadership. But in late 2025, a 62-page internal manifesto titled Project Athena began circulating within the halls of the Johnson Space Center. It wasn't written by a government bureaucrat, it was the brainchild of billionaire pilot and entrepreneur Jared Isaacman. Following his confirmation as NASA Administrator in December 2025, the Project Athena plan became the new law of the land. Isaacman isn't a career politician who is worried about the next election, he's a commander who has actually walked in space. He looked at the Artemis 3 timeline and saw a train wreck in slow motion. The Isaacman doctrine is simple: stop lying about the schedule. Under his leadership, NASA has pivotally shifted Artemis 3 into an Apollo 9-style mission. For those who aren't history buffs, Apollo 9 was the 1969 mission that stayed in Earth orbit to test the lunar module because NASA wasn't yet ready for the deep space risks of the moon. By doing this in 2026, Isaacman is performing a radical corporate restructuring. He's moving away from flags and footprints PR and toward systemic reliability. He's essentially telling the world, we aren't going to the moon just to say we did it, we're going to stay, and right now, our hardware isn't ready to stay. The first domino to fall in this grand plan wasn't a rocket, it was a shield. When Artemis 2 splashed down in April 2026, the world saw a triumph. The 4 astronauts were home, the capsule looked intact, and the mission was hailed as a success. But inside the recovery hangars, the mood was grim. During the uncrewed Artemis 1 test, the Orion heat shield, the only thing standing between the crew and a 3,000-degree plasma inferno, experienced what engineers call spalling. This is a polite way of saying the shield was cracking and shedding large chunks of material unexpectedly. NASA official stance was that they could fix it with a different re-entry, under trajectory. But the data from the Artemis 2 splashdown earlier this month proved otherwise. Even with a lofted re-entry designed to shed heat slowly, the shield still showed unpredictable charring. At lunar return speeds, Orion hits the atmosphere at 11 kilometers per second. That's Mach 32. At that speed, the air doesn't just push against the ship, it turns into a superheated plasma furnace. Isaacman isn't betting lives on better than last time, he's demanding perfect. If a crack reaches the aluminum structure of the capsule during that 11 kilometers per second re-entry, it's an extinction-level event for the crew. NASA realized that the high-energy return required for a landing mission put too much stress on a shield they no longer fully trusted. By keeping Artemis 3 in low Earth orbit, the re-entry speeds are lower, the thermal stress is manageable, and the crew stays alive while they wait for a redesigned bulletproof shield. Even if the shield was flawless, we have a logistics nightmare waiting in orbit. This is the part of the mission that most people don't realize is the real silent killer of the 2026 timeline. For Artemis 3 to land, SpaceX's human landing system, the giant moon-rated Starship, needs to get to the moon, but it can't get there alone. Because Starship is so massive, it uses up almost all its fuel just getting into Earth orbit. To send it to the moon, SpaceX has to launch a conveyor belt of 10 to 14 tanker starships to refill it in space. Think about that. 14 successful launches, 14 dockings, and 14 cryogenic fuel transfers, all within a narrow window of a few weeks. If you wait too long between tankers, the fuel begins to undergo boil off in the vacuum of space. Keeping super-chilled liquid oxygen and methane from turning back into gas is an engineering nightmare. As of early 2026, SpaceX has made incredible progress with the Starship V3 architecture, but they haven't proven they can launch every 48 hours, which is exactly what you need to make this conveyor belt work. The connection here is vital because the Orion heat shield is currently fragile. NASA wanted Starship to carry more weight and handle more of the orbital braking to soften the return trip for Orion. But Starship can't carry that extra weight without even more fuel. The math simply broke. The refueling bottleneck became a wall that Artemis 3 couldn't climb. Now, let's talk about the problem no one wants to mention, the clothes. It sounds like a joke. We can build a Starship, but we can't build a pair of moon pants? But this is arguably the most embarrassing delay in NASA history. On April 20th, 2026, a scathing report from the NASA Office of Inspector General confirmed what insiders had feared, the Axiom suit crisis. Axiom Space was tasked with building the Axiom suits. These aren't just outfits, they are personalized, wearable spacecraft that have to protect humans from razor-sharp lunar dust and temperatures that swing from boiling to negative 300 degrees in. The shadows. The OIG report was brutal. It stated that the suits are currently too heavy for effective lunar mobility and that the portable life support cooling systems are failing during 6-hour endurance tests. Because of this, NASA has been forced to move the suit's first real space test to the International Space Station. Think about the stakes here. These suits are the final lock on the door. If you can't step outside, you can't land. By moving the suit test to an orbital rehearsal mission in 2027, NASA is admitting that they currently have 0 options for a surface mission. Right now, the suit isn't a gateway, it's a coffin. So, if Artemis 3 is staying in Earth orbit, is the program dead? Under Isaacman's Project Athena, the answer is a firm no. In fact, the argument is that the program is finally healthy. NASA has officially designated Artemis 4, scheduled for early 2028, as the first mission to actually touch the moon. By sacrificing the Artemis 3 landing, they are buying SpaceX 2 more years to master the 14-tanker refueling belt. They are giving Axiom time to lighten the suits and fix the life support cooling. And most importantly, they are giving engineers the chance to fly the Block 1B variant of the SLS rocket, which can carry significantly more cargo. Artemis 4 isn't just a delay, it's a more powerful mission. It will likely feature a more mature Starship HLS and potentially the first components of the Lunar Gateway Station. The real reason Artemis 3 won't land on the moon is that NASA finally chose survival over a PR deadline. We aren't losing the race to the moon against China, we're making sure that when we arrive, we have the hardware to actually stay there. Artemis 3 will be a spectacular orbital ballet, a test of fire and docking that will make 2028 possible. The moon is waiting. But thanks to a billionaire administrator and a few cracked heat shields, we're finally going to get there the right way.